Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we are going to learn about Ielts Speaking Test Part 1. Our topic is going to be crime. In this lesson, we are going to look at some questions and some sample answers. If you're planning to do your Ielts speaking test in the near future, then there is a chance that the examiner is going to ask you some questions about crime. To prepare you, we are going to look at the questions and the sample answers. I'm also going to give you some tips to help you score a very high band in your Ielts speaking test. Let's begin with question 1. What are the most common crimes in your country? What are the most common crimes in your country? In that question, the examiner wants you to identify the crime that is mostly committed in your country. Which crime is committed the most in your country? Now, you can answer that question by saying, the most rampant crimes in my country include petty crimes such as pickpocketing and shoplifting. Muggings and burglary have also increased in the last few years, especially in big cities. The most rampant crimes in my country include petty crimes such as pickpocketing and shoplifting. Muggings and burglary have also increased in the last few years, especially in big cities. So in that answer, I have identified the crimes that happen the most in my country. They include petty crimes. Petty means that they're very light sort of crimes. They don't involve guns or anything like that. Petty, it's a petty, small-time criminal committing a petty crime, such as pickpocketing. Now, pickpocketing is when a thief tries to steal something from you by picking it from your pocket or from your handbag without you realizing that he or she is doing it. That is pickpocketing. And then we have shoplifting. Shoplifting is when a thief pretends to be a customer in a shop, and they instead, actually what they do is they steal the clothes or jewelry or whatever is being sold in that shop, and they put it in their bags secretly. That is shoplifting. And then we have muggings. Now, when you're mugged, it means that somebody attacks you to steal something from you. Let's say, for example, you have a laptop. Somebody meets you, they hit you, they slap you, and they take the laptop from you and they run away. That is mugging. Means that you have been attacked. And then we have burglary. Burglary. Now, burglary means that somebody breaks into your house and they steal things from your house. That is burglary. Let's move on to question 2. Is your country safe? Is your country safe? When the examiner asks that question, he or she wants to know whether, in your opinion, you think your country is safe. Now, to answer that question, you can say, in general, I would say that my country is quite safe because there are very few incidents of criminal behavior reported to the police or filed complaints. In general, I would say that my country is quite safe because there are very few incidents of criminal behavior reported to the police or filed complaints. Now, in that answer, I have expressed my opinion in general, okay? That means generally. I would say that my country is quite safe. And then I gave the reason. I introduced the reason using the linking word because there are very few incidents of criminal behavior. reported to the police or filed complaints. Let's move on to question 4. Or rather, question 3. Have you ever witnessed a crime? Have you ever witnessed a crime? In that question, the examiner wants you to tell him or her whether you have ever seen somebody committing a crime. Have you ever been an eyewitness of a crime? Now, you can answer that question by saying, yes, actually, just yesterday, I witnessed a young man in the bus trying to pickpocket an elderly woman who was sitting next to me, but thankfully, he was not successful. Yes, actually, just yesterday, I witnessed a young man in the bus trying to pickpocket an elderly woman who was sitting next to me, but thankfully, he was not successful. So in that answer, I confirmed to the examiner that yes, actually, I have seen somebody committing a crime. And actually, it was just yesterday. I witnessed a young man in the bus trying to pickpocket an elderly woman. So he was trying to steal something from an elderly woman, okay, from her handbag, secretly trying to remove something from her handbag to steal something. But thankfully, he was not successful. Let's move on to question 4. Is shoplifting common in your country? Is shoplifting common in your country? In that question, the examiner simply wants to know whether shoplifting happens a lot in your country. Remember, I said shoplifting is when people go to shops and they pretend they're customers who want to buy something, but secretly they are stealing the things that are being sold there and putting them in their bags. That is shoplifting. Now, you can answer that question by saying, unfortunately, shoplifting is a very common phenomenon in my country, particularly in big malls where criminals posing as customers steal items, for example, clothes and jewelry. Unfortunately, shoplifting is a very common phenomenon in my country, particularly in big malls where criminals posing as customers steal items, for example, clothes and jewelry. So in that answer, I have confirmed to the examiner that unfortunately, I find it really sad. It is very unfortunate, but shoplifting is a very common phenomenon. Phenomenon means that it happens a lot. It is a very common occurrence. It's a very common behavior, phenomenon in my country, particularly means especially in big malls where criminals posing. To pose means to pretend, where criminals posing or pretending to be customers, so they are posing as customers. They steal items, for example, clothes and jewelry. Let's move on to question 5. What are the best ways for the police to keep neighborhoods safe? What are the best ways for the police to keep neighborhoods safe? In that question, the examiner wants you to tell him or her some of the best ways. That means not one way, but many ways that you think are the best to keep neighborhoods safe. Now, you can answer that question by saying, the police can ensure that neighborhoods are safe by patrolling them, arresting criminals, and making sure that they are brought to court and punished for their criminal activities by being fined or given a jail sentence. The police can ensure that neighborhoods are safe by patrolling them, arresting criminals, and making sure that they are brought to court and punished for their criminal activities by being fined or given a jail sentence. So, in that answer, I have identified what I think are the best ways for the police to keep neighborhoods safe. Patrolling them, meaning walking around the neighborhoods, to ensure that they're safe. Arresting criminals. When they see them, they arrest them. Arresting them, meaning they handcuff them. And make sure that these criminals are brought to court and punished for their criminal activities by being fined. Being fined means that maybe they're asked to pay a certain amount of money or given a jail sentence, meaning that they have to serve time in jail for them to be released. Let's move on to question 6. Why do people commit crimes? Why do people commit crimes? In that question, the examiner simply wants you to tell him or her some reasons as to why people commit crimes. Now, you can answer that question by saying, people commit crimes due to poor upbringing, lack of moral values, desire for what they don't have, poverty, and peer pressure. People commit crimes due to poor upbringing, lack of moral values, desire for what they don't have, poverty, and peer pressure. So in that answer, I have given a number of reasons as to why I think people commit crimes. Now, the first one is poor upbringing. Poor upbringing meaning that you have not been taught by your parents that it is wrong to steal something from somebody. Or maybe you grew up in a house where people steal. So when you grow up in that kind of household, you think stealing is okay. That is a poor upbringing. Another reason is lack of moral values. If you lack moral values, it means that you don't have a sense of right or wrong. You have no idea what is wrong and what is right. So you lack moral values, and because of that, you commit crime. Another reason is desire for what they don't have. People commit crimes because they want something that they don't have. They have a desire. To have a desire is to have a very strong wish or longing to have something. So they commit crimes because they have a desire for what they don't have. They see somebody driving an expensive car, they want the car, and they can't afford it. They steal it. That is because they have a desire for that particular car. Another reason is poverty. Poverty means poor. Some people commit crimes because they're poor. They don't have something to eat. They don't have clothes, and they can't afford to buy that. They don't have the money to do that. So what do? They steal. So they steal because of poverty. And then the last one is peer pressure. People steal because of peer pressure. That means that they do it because they see other people doing it. Maybe they're friends, they go to the mall and they pickpocket, they steal things, they shoplift, okay? And because those are your friends, you also do it. That is what we call peer pressure. So if the examiner wants you to give more elaborate answers, you can give those examples. Poor upbringing. If you live in a house where people steal, then you also think that stealing is okay. Lack of moral values. You don't know what is right or wrong. So you steal because you don't think it's wrong. Then a desire for what you don't have. They do that because they want something that they don't have and they see other people have it and they can't afford it, so they steal. Poverty means they steal because they are poor. And then peer pressure because their friends do it. Now let's move on to question 7. What do you think about criminals? What do you think about criminals? In that question, the examiner wants you to give him or her your opinion. What do you think about criminals? Now, you can answer that question by saying, in my opinion, criminals are selfish, heartless, and dishonest individuals without any morals or a conscience. In my opinion, criminals are selfish, heartless, and dishonest individuals without any morals or a conscience. So in that answer, I have used some words to describe my opinion about what I think about criminals. I think they're selfish. If you're selfish, it means that you only think about yourself. You're selfish. You don't care about other people. Heartless, it means that, it doesn't bother you when you do something wrong. You're heartless. You don't feel guilty at all. And then dishonest, it means that they are not honest people. They have no morals. That means that they have no sense of right or wrong. And they have no conscience, meaning that they don't feel bad after they have done something wrong. Okay? They don't feel bad at all later. They don't have any conscience. They don't have any guilty feelings. Okay? They have no guilty feelings when they do something wrong. So they have no conscience. So in my opinion, criminals are selfish, heartless, and dishonest individuals without any morals or a conscience. So there you go. Those are the answers that you could give if you're asked these questions. Now, this brings me to the final section of this lesson where I'm going to give you some tips to ensure that you pass your Ielts speaking test with a very high band. If you're aiming for a band 8 or a band 9, the first tip that I'm going to give you is that make sure that you use compound and complex sentences in your answers. You notice that in these sample answers, I have used compound and complex sentences. A compound sentence has 2 verbs. A complex sentence has 3 or more verbs, meaning that a compound sentence has 1 linking word. Complex sentence has 2 or more linking words. Tip number 2, please make sure that you understand the question that the examiner is asking you. If, for example, the examiner asks, what are the best ways for the police to keep neighborhoods safe? They're asking for ways. They're not asking you to give one way. Listen to the examiner very carefully and make sure you understand the question so that you can give a relevant answer. Tip number 3 is that use the vocabulary that is correct for the topic that the examiner is asking you questions about. We're talking about crime here. So I have given you a lot of vocabulary in my sample answers to be able to talk about crime. Now, if you found this lesson helpful at all, you know what to do. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course, share the video with somebody else who may benefit from it. Help other people so that they can also benefit. Because remember, sharing is caring. I have shared. Please share the video with other people. Okay, now thank you very much everyone, and I shall see you in our next lesson. Bye bye.